We have to talk about Luminae and Pinaka in Mecha Break, and they're the two support characters in the game right now. And at least when we are taking the closed beta, Luminae is in a terrible spot. I am normally a Pinaka main and have been reaching platinum with the character in the beta. I could have probably gone higher. I have over an 80% win rate, and it was just time restraints, which basically stopped me. But I was also curious, of course, to see how Luminae plays in comparison to Pinaka. And even though two of the mechs are very different in play style, Luminae is lacking in every perspective there is. So to understand why Luminae is so weak, we need to have a look at Pinaka first. And Pinaka is the newest support, so it was clear that they had to do some changes here and there, especially nerfs. Right, they already nerfed the character in the beta. They took away of the firepower, and some of the support capabilities got a little bit nerfed, but Pinaka is still in a very good spot because the kit itself is very strong. We will ignore the left click of Pinaka right now because you have to be in melee range. The friendly player has to stand still right while you are doing the repairs, so it doesn't really count too much. But even with that, Pinaka still has some very strong healing abilities. The drones are pretty good. They have a pretty high cooldown, but for most of the time the drones are really helpful, and most of the healing is coming from Pinaka's shield, which I say she because I have a female pilot. Sorry, it's an it, right? It uses the shield, and while the shield is on the other player, it is also repairing the mech, and that shield is ridiculous. It is really ridiculous because yes, it repairs the other player, but the shield itself is another layer of protection the enemy has to go through. So it's another health bar you are just putting on the player, and that health bar is also protecting you from every crowd control in the game. Like, as long as the shield is there, you cannot be crowd controlled. And yes, that goes for the Panther charge and the Lance. You cannot be crowd controlled by that charge. And so that gives you a huge boost against melee fighters. And another thing Pinaka is doing pretty well, besides of repairing, is the damage output, because you have a shotgun, and that shotgun is doing ridiculous damage. You can kill like even a Valken, which is a heavy brawler in the game if you have never really played it too much. You can kill a Valken in 5 seconds. You can completely take them from 100% shields, from 100% life to zero in 5 seconds. It would deplete all your ammunition for a while on your Pinaka, but yes, you can totally hold your own, and weaker enemies are even faster and need even less ammunition to kill them. So Pinaka is also very dangerous in close quarter combat, and that's something you don't want to face. So you could say that Pinaka is an all-rounder. After the nerfs, you have to look a little bit out on when you are diving in, because now you have less ammunition to defend yourself against multiple enemies. So you still, if you're jumping into a fight, you have to target one of the weaker mechs, and then you still need some ammunition to maybe get out of there and to protect yourself. So you need a little bit more thinking, is what I want to say here. And then we are now switching to Luminae over, and I really have to say, I don't know what this mech is good at. I have been trying to figure it out by playing a few rounds, and it becomes clear to me that Luminae is good in a specific situation. And that is when you have a team, right? If you have a 5-man team on your side, Luminae can be really strong. Luminae can bring a lot to the table with energy regeneration when players are nearby, AoE healing, healing on multiple targets as long as they're sticking close to Luminae, and more importantly, as long as they're showing restraint to go back to the healer and let the healer do their work. So 95% of the random players will never do any of that, and Luminae is just completely massively losing a lot of the support capabilities it normally would bring to the table. So Luminae is not useless, but because most people are playing with randoms, Luminae is just not a good choice. And it gets even worse the moment you're looking at the damage capabilities. So Luminae can switch over to damage, right? And Luminae then has 2 damage capabilities. First is 2 drones you can put on an enemy, and they will directly attack the health of the enemy. They don't have to go through the shield first. And you might think, wow, that's really powerful, right? I can understand why the damage is not that high. The problem is, it's not good. I have done some tests, and basically a falcon, which, let's be honest here, doesn't really have a lot of health, right, in comparison to others. It takes 30 seconds and 4 weapon cycles, so 4 shots with the drones, to get him to 0, right? And then I tried this against the Valken, and it took me 1.5 minutes to kill the Valken, which is just like even the 30 seconds, you cannot do that. Now, with that said, if you were using your AoE damage together with the drones, it only takes half of the time. So the Falcon is being destroyed in 15 seconds, and the Valken is being destroyed in like 45 to 50 seconds. But that is still too much, because Luminae doesn't really have the luxury to really stay in the midst of the fight. Going into the fight with your AoE damage aura is just not something you want to do. Luminae doesn't have the defensive capabilities. You are very maneuverable, right? You are very fast, and that means you want to stay away from the midst of the fight, but a lot of the abilities are basically forcing you to go in. So it's this, what? This doesn't feel right. And as I said, if you just want to be the healer, then the other players have to show constraints. And they won't do that. Like the moment they realize, oh, my health is regenerating. Okay, it's regenerating super slow, and it will probably take like 15 to 13 seconds to be fully online again. I would just go in again. It's like, cool, you just killed yourself because you thought you were getting a little bit of healing. The healing itself is, by the way, also a joke. I tested some healing with Pinaka, and it took me, for the Falcon, it took me about 7 seconds with a drone and the shield to get Pinaka back to 100% from nearly 0. And then I did the same with Luminae, and it took me like 20 seconds nearly. And it's like, well, why is Luminae even weaker when it comes to healing? What is going on here, right? So they have to tune the numbers, they have to buff Luminae, but the problem is you can only do that so much, right? There is a very big constraint because Luminae is a no-think character, right? You shoot the drones at somebody, DPS or healing, doesn't matter, and you just let the drones do their thing. The same goes with the AoE healing. You're just activating it, and everyone around you is getting healed or getting damaged. So you don't really have to think too much about when to use your abilities. So that means they can only give it as much power till it becomes too OP for the work you have to put in. When you look at Pinaka, even the drones have to be sent out in certain areas, and you have to manage that a bit. The shield, of course, has its own health bar. You have to manage that. You want to give yourself a shield. The shield is also your attack, right? So if you give the ring to somebody, which is creating the shield and the healing, you're losing all your defense/attack capabilities because your weapons basically go with that, and the AoE attack it provides while it is on another player or on yourself for healing is just not good, right? So even with that said, even there's a lot of constraints and a lot of things you have to think about when it comes to how to utilize Pinaka, Luminae can just not keep up. And I would tell you this right now. The moment a third support is entering the ring, Luminae will be forgotten. And yes, by the way, I have forgotten to mention the wall ability Pinaka has. That thing is also pretty brutal, does a lot of damage, gives you a lot of control over the battlefield. Another thing Luminae doesn't really have is like battlefield control. So you're really wondering, what is Luminae supposed to do? Like, yes, I said that if you have a team, Luminae can do quite a bit, but so can Pinaka, right? It's like we are literally talking about the best case scenario for Luminae only makes it so that Luminae can compete with Pinaka, and I don't think that number changes will help. I truly believe that Luminae needs a rework because you can only, as I said, tweak the numbers this much till you reach the point where you really don't have to think anymore and you will be too OP. And it just doesn't work like that. So yeah, I'm hoping Luminae will get quite a bit of a rework when we are getting into the next playtest or the game is releasing. Because, as I said, Pinaka is too strong already. And when the third supporter is entering the arena, Luminae will be all but forgotten, which is really sad because I like the design of the striker. Now they just have to get the abilities in order. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more MechaBreak videos. We are doing highlights here on the channel with shorts, and I'm trying to do as many interesting videos about the game as possible. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe. Bye-bye.